And now, the Rise Above Show, presented by Roofing.com and hosted by Diego Dante.
Welcome to the Rise Above Show, presented by Roofing.com. I am your host, Diego Dante, and with me today we have Reggie Brock from Beacon.
Diego, good to meet you finally. I mean, I've been looking forward to this, just being able to meet you and spend some time with you, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, we're here in Dallas.
Big D.
Yeah.
Big event tonight, right?
Yeah. So today we're going to be at Jonathan Sherwood's event. He's hosting the What's Stopping You event, and it is here at the Hyatt Regency in Dallas. And he's going to be this whole event is centered around professional or personal development. He's going to have life coach come in and talk. There's going to be a breakthrough panel, a perseverance panel, which we actually are both on.
That's right.
On the panel there. And so when I heard Reggie speak at a American Contractor panel, I decided to reach out to him to be on the podcast when we knew we were going to be here at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we were able to connect.
Worked out great.
Yeah. So okay, Reggie. So we're going to start out, and I really want to get to know you, and for the people that haven't seen your face before, if you'll introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what do you do, what do you bring to the industry, give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Sure. So I work with Beacon. I'll start there. I'm on the national account team with the Beacon Building Supply, and so I'm on the storm team. So most of these guys who don't know me know Michael Carver and Greg Bloom. I'm on the storm side of our business. So, I work with guys all across the country in multiple locations that work really storm restoration work. And so obviously we provide them the material as much as we can get our hands on. And so that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis with Beacon. From a history standpoint, I actually was raised in a preacher's house. And so a lot of background in denomination and religion. I went to Bible college, came out, went in the ministry, and I traveled on the evangelistic field for years, went through a divorce, and in the denomination I was a part of, you go through a divorce, you got to find a new career. So I got into insurance, spent 25 years there with some...
How'd you get the foot in the door? How'd you make the change from I guess, how'd you get into insurance? It seems like a drastic change there. It was very
drastic, but when you're desperate to start making money, you just start looking at, insurance is a lot like roofing. You can get in pretty quick and you can make money pretty quick. And so for me, I was looking for what can I get into to make money pretty quickly. That was my motivation at the time.
Sure.
Well, I spent 25 years doing that, and a lot of different roles with two really big companies. And I reached in 2010 a point to where I had some really miserable personal failures that affected my family in an unfair way. And we basically lost everything. And so at 50, I had to start over again. And we moved to Texas, and my nephew, who's a builder, said to me, "What you want to do with the rest of your life?" And I'm like, I don't know. I knew, though, I could find something and make money because I hustle. I did not sit around. I knew what I had to do to make money. And roofing, he said to me, "Why don't you get into roofing?" And I looked at him, and I said, "It ain't that bad yet." And so he started telling me what these guys' money were making, and I'm like, well, I'll try it out. So the first storm I worked was 2010 in San Antonio, and kind of the rest is history.
Wow. Okay, so from there, that was 2010, 11 years ago. Mm-hmm. So now to, like when I called you the first time, I told you that the first time you came across my radar at the American Contractor panel, the Legacy panel, and I heard you speak, and it was really good. And so, from there, I know that you've been on a journey now to start your own podcast, Live Exposed, right? Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that on, what the purpose is of what you're doing with Live Exposed, and I know that's I was a little maybe I didn't know what I was expecting when I was listening to it the first time, but after listening to it, I connected with it a lot. So tell us a little bit about, what brought that about and then what your mission is with that.
So I got tired of hiding. I got tired of really pushing stuff down that I wanted nobody to see. And it was polluting me. And when I had these pollutants and poisons in me, they just have a natural way of coming out of you. And the problem was the poisons I housed started affecting my wife and my son in every relationship I had. It affected my careers. And it was just basically built off of hurts and frustrations and failures of the past that were unresolved with me, just pushed down. And, I was determined that I wasn't going to fail again, or I wasn't going to be hurt again in particular. And that stuff gets deep in you, and until it's released out of you, it'll poison you and eventually others around you. And that's what was happening to me. I'm like, I would look at my life after my wife and I kind of gained our footing again, so to speak, through roofing and the grace of God, honestly, and hard work. And I started thinking, we're coming out of this, but yet I wake up in the middle of the night having so much, yet feeling so empty. What in the world is this? And it dawned upon me, I was taking care of everything that everybody saw about me to impress them and to build status with them and to create name for myself. And at the end of each day, when I lay down with just me in my own head, I'm like, there's got to be much more. And so the much more to me was, I realized, was internal tensions and challenges that I was having that wouldn't go away. They just kept on and on and on. And the problem was they were never going to go away till they were exposed. And so John Dye, friend of both of ours, we started kind of talking about this. And I said, hey, man, I think I want to do a podcast. And he said, I got an idea. Why don't you use this name Live Exposed? And I had the first reaction. What does that really mean? Well, I went to my wife, who's a pharmacist, and I said to her, honey, I'm thinking about calling this show Live Exposed. What do you think? Now get this. This is, to me, profound. She said to me, she's, again, a pharmacist. She said, when I hear the word exposed, I think of the word bacteria. Now, I'm like,
yeah, it's not what I think of.
Exactly. Most roofers wouldn't. And so I said, honey, please, what are you talking about? She said, look, there are types of bacteria, and this is profound. She said that live under the surface and will never die until they're exposed to oxygen.
Wow.
And I heard that, and I'm like, that's the freedom I need. I have put so much of this pooled poison down in me that has never been exposed to light or oxygen, so it keeps living. She said, what you got to do is lance it open and let that bacteria be exposed to oxygen or light, and guess what it does? It dies forever. And so the Live Exposed to me is an active daily awareness of these things inside of me that are poisoning me, hindering my growth and my potential, and doing the best I can every day to get them out of my system. That's Lived Exposed. And most people, a lot of people I know, Diego, are people who have become experts at hiding and pushing down and really thinking that they're walling that poison off. And the fact of the matter is it's going to affect them till they expose it to light or oxygen.
That's really, it's a great way of looking at it. I shared a story with you at lunch of when I was struggling with my weight after having, dealt with a lot of other things. One of my big things was I realized that I had a binge eating addiction. And that's not something that I went out and I talked to everyone about. It's something that just I kind of kept with me. In fact, I didn't even realize that I had an issue. I just thought, it was one of those things where I dealt with, that was the only way I could deal with stress. I would eat and eat and eat, and I didn't have an off switch, right? And so it got to the point where at my son's, and I didn't tell you this part, but at my son's 4th birthday earlier this year in March, I sat there at lunch after a stressful day. It wasn't even like anything crazy had happened, but just, typical stressed. Because I didn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with it. What happened was I ate so much there after having eaten a lot during work. I'd been snacking, all this stuff. I ate a lot, and then I went home. We'd driven separate cars because I had met my wife there with the kids. And then when I drove home, I stopped at the gas station, and I was still so stressed out. And I stopped, and I got a box of donuts there, and I just ate the entire box of donuts. And I sat there in the car, and I realized I have a problem because most people wouldn't be taking in all this food just to deal with their issues. And I'm doing it in secret. I'm doing it in hiding, right? I don't want anyone to know. I'm getting these things. I'm tossing them out.
Right.
And so I made a post on Facebook that day, and I said, hey, I have an issue with this. I need some help.
Yeah.
And I had a few people reach out to me, and those people, I created a group chat on Facebook, and I had about 8 or so guys in there who all started keeping me accountable.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started being very open about my struggles, and, you know, a lot of the more personal struggles, I kept it within that core group of guys. But then it was so incredible because then those guys had, you know, when I decided that I was going to start working out and doing all those things, I had guys like Sean Clare. He would reach out to me if he didn't see me tell him that I had worked out that day. He'd call me up and he'd say, why didn't you effing work out today? And he just, you know, just call me out for that type of stuff. And
yeah, you had to have courage, and you took it. You took a step, an action step.
Yeah. And none of that would have happened if I wouldn't have talked to people about it and been open about it and exposed it. And so I really connected with you on that.
Yeah.
When I started listening to your podcast.
Yeah, and so that's the concept. The concept is you don't walk to the world and go like, here I am. That's not what I'm asking people to do. But finding safe place and safe people to help you navigate through this. And you and I talked about this at lunch. Finding a huddle of people who can get around you, that work with you to progress not just their life but your life, creates the opportunities of growth that you really wanted. So living exposed is not about sharing your life with the world. It's finding safe place with safe people that'll hold you accountable and you can be transparent with, so that you can get out of you what needs to be out of you, and they can help you do that. Now, again, this is not me exhibiting all of my, weaknesses to the world, but I'm going to tell you what, you can never get out of the bondage that you were in by yourself. You proved it. I proved it. If I don't have somebody I'm accountable to and be willing to actively live like that, to where I've got guys right now who call me who are dealing with different issues of their life, and they will call me because now there's confidence in our relationship, and go like, dude, I know you're going to barbecue me on this, but I fought this today, and then I lost. I just went backwards. And they're comfortable enough to go like, being exposed to somebody is more important to them than the failure that they had, because now they've got somebody to walk it out with them. That's what living. I didn't just say be exposed. I said live exposed. It's that active, ongoing awareness of the needs you have, and being able to have transparency and courage enough to open up to people to help you navigate through it.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple of rapid fire questions so that we can we can go over, really the topic of the show is the Rise Above show. We're talking about situations in our lives where people are rising above. Obviously, you've got a lot of knowledge and insight on this, and so I'm excited to pick your brain a little bit on this. So what has been your biggest or a big failure in your life, and how have you been able to overcome?
Yeah, the biggest failure I had was as a husband and a father. No doubt. I made some poor choices that I regret every day I live now, but I couldn't live with regret. I had to do something about it. Sitting around and maintaining my, feeling sorry for myself changed nothing. And look, there are times still I'm like, oh my God, I have bad memories about it. I have nightmares sometimes about it. But the fact of the matter is, what changed is really a couple things. Number one, my wife and son forgave me and were willing to give it another swing. That was important to me. The second thing is, I had to decide I was going to fix what I broke. I couldn't wait on everybody else to try to, and sometimes, Diego, that was embarrassing because I had to do things to restore that just flat out rubbed me the wrong way. But they were important enough to me that I was willing to do that. So the message I have for you today when it comes to dealing with a failure is, number one, own up to it. And realize it's going to take work to get back. But the interesting thing to me is this. I believe if you ask my wife today and my son today, what they're going to remember most about me was not the setback, but the bounce back. And so if you work hard enough to restore what you've broken, and the grace of God is abundantly available to help you through that, then your setback will be secondary to your comeback and that bounce back. But it takes work, and honestly, most people don't want to put it in. It's easier to run than face. I screwed up. I don't want to talk about this anymore. On to the next chapter of my life. Nope, not me. I had to decide, and it wasn't overnight, man. I mean, it was like they still didn't like me. I mean, they were hurt. And I mean, as a man, I'm like, let's rub a little dirt on it. Let's get over it and go on. It was deep wounds.
Yeah.
But I decided, because they accepted the willingness to try, there ain't no way in hell this wasn't going to come back together.
Yeah. Okay, next rapid fire question is, how will you know that you've succeeded in business?
Based upon the impact I deliver to other people, right? I mean, I feel like my call on this earth while I have breath in me is to provide help and assistance, love, kindness, and generosity to people around me, to help them kind of reach the goals, desires of their own heart, right? And so I know that sounds awkward, but it's true for me. And one of the things that I think is really relevant, you said rapid questions. Did you say rapid answers? Okay, I'm going to try, but we talked about this at lunch, and I think it's really, really important. What I really think will be helpful for most of the people that I deal with, because I see so much lack in it, is I call it being a mile wide and an inch deep. Now think about that. We go in so many directions trying to expand our kingdom and expand our reach with people, and we want to get likes and shares, and we have built what I call this horizontal influence strategy, where we just want to get wide. I'm telling you, to survive and thrive and to persevere, you better develop a deeper root system than you have, because when storms come, if you're not locked close to the foundation of the ground, so to speak, you will blow away no matter how wide you are. The focus for me is not width and height, it's depth.
So you really brought it in during lunch and saying that, if you're not deeply rooted, what's going to happen is you could have a $30 million company, but you're not going to feel true fulfillment,
right?
Because those successes aren't what's going to bring you aren't bringing you happiness.
Right.
It's being deeply rooted that's going to bring you that fulfillment.
Well, it's security too. Mm-hmm. The root system is what creates security. This whistles and bells on top of the surface that everybody sees is just for them to see. The fact of the matter is, for us to feel good and secure about where we are, I'm telling you, it's about depth of roots and the development of those root systems that create the ability to withstand no matter what happens. I don't care how wide you are, you cannot overlook taking time to develop a deeper root system so that you can sustain, overcome, and live in victory, even when things aren't good. And the reason, Diego, that most people don't do that is it just takes too much work. Nobody wants to put the work in. Nobody wants to take the time to discipline themselves to start looking deep as opposed to what everybody else is seeing. Nobody wants to look deep because they really don't want anybody to see what's under there. Oh, I'm going to polish and promote and protect everything everybody sees. But let me tell you something. When 100-mile-an-hour winds come, they don't care what you look like on the outside. They're going to rip through you. And so what I'm trying to prepare people for is not just trying to be wide and high, but go deep so that true protection is available.
And then the last question that I have for you is, what is a book that's changed your life?
Yeah, that's a hard question for me. I'm going to tell you the most recent one that has. Tommy Harris Jr., I don't know if you know Tommy or not. Tommy played for the Chicago Bears. I had the opportunity to meet him at a Roofers in Recovery meeting in Texas, and we played golf together. And he wrote a book called Endure. That word endure. And when I read that, it re-emphasized to me the importance of attitudes and lifestyles that people overlook and the importance of them, and that is patience and endurance. And if that book meant more to me than I can explain, well written. Tommy's got a great story, but his whole story was about, he lost his wife they were about to get married. His fiance, they were about to get married. She died unexpectedly.
Wow.
He remarried. His wife had a baby. That baby died unexpectedly. And this is a guy who was the first defensive tackle in the history of the NFL who signed a $10 million contract. That $10 million contract did nothing for his survival techniques. What did is his root system over the years of his life that had taught him that patience and endurance over time will produce the life you really want to live. It's a powerful book. Tommy Harris Jr., Endure.
We'll put it in the show notes for people.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, Reggie, we appreciate you coming
and
chatting with us and chatting with me. I'm the
Yep.
full team today here.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of issues here with the hotel, but but the power of technology, we're going to
Yes.
clip it all out and y'all won't even know that happened. But man, I'm excited to be on the panel today at Jonathan's event, and I'm excited for all the stuff you got going on.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be with you guys. I've watched RoofCon and the different aspects of your business that are unfolding and how it's helping people, and I'm just proud for you, and I look forward to helping anything I can do to help you guys. And me being on the show today was a real blessing. So thank you.
We appreciate it. Guys, please join our Facebook group. It is the Roofing and Solar Community on Facebook. And check this podcast out on all the podcast platforms. And also check out Reggie's podcast, Live Exposed. And with that, we'll cut it. We'll see you guys next week on the next episode of the Rise Above Show. Thanks. If I wouldn't have realized that there was a problem and exposed it to a group of people there,
Yeah.
We're going to pause 1 second. Can you come back later?
I'm just confirming because I had you for an 11 a.m. checkout this morning.
Oh, I was checking that tomorrow.
Okay, just let me confirm with them so that front desk is notified.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And being accountable is a part of that. So Live Exposed is just this.
We're going to have a blooper reel for this one for sure.
Okay.
I am so sorry about
Don't
that.
worry about it.
This is Diego. Yeah, can you extend it to tomorrow on the same card? Yeah, I'll need you to come down to the desk, okay? Great, I'll be down if you give me 15 minutes or so, okay? Sounds good. Thanks, bye. We can go back to, you can start out at what we were talking about. We were talking about how we had connected over that. We connected over.
Oh, I know. So being able, the victory out of all of that was where we are now 20 years later, 15, 18 years later.
This is Diego. Nope, we're good. Thanks. I am so sorry.
I'm good, man.